You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
I'm Katrina, and I love anime.
I'm Steven, and I'm aware of anime.
But what if that affection could rub off?
Perhaps that excitement in her eyes got me curious.
I could offer up some solid anime.
I could give them a watch, just to see what all the fuss is about.
And maybe, just maybe,
I could learn to love anime too.
Welcome to Inspired by a Weeaboo.
Hello everyone who has been listening to this podcast. Welcome back to Inspired by a Weeaboo that's been on hiatus for about 4 years now. I'm your host, Stephen White, and with me is my wife, Katrina,
Yes.
the Weeaboo herself, if you
Yes.
will, who's been trying to introduce me to anime. So it has been a while. We originally did this show, I think, back in 2018. We had a full season planned out. We did. It was supposed to be a hiatus show for my other show, Super Mega Crash Brothers Turbo. We ran all 13 episodes throughout a summer break. And I thought, from that point on, we'll figure it out. And, time got away from us, and I've been doing other stuff during that time. But this one just slipped away because time for both of us has just become difficult. And we could do this probably, but that also requires us watching anime. And, that's...
Well, you ain't got to say it like that, damn.
Well, no, I don't. I didn't mean that in a bad way. But what we kind of want to do with this episode is kind of reintroduce us, what the show goal is, because like our original idea, like I said, we did 13 episodes. We broke down every episode of Death Parade. It's like we would watch it and then review it, and some episodes would go probably 30 minutes, and a little longer, some a little shorter, just depended on the episode and what we had to say about it.
Yeah.
And we've been I think this is another reason it's taken us so long to kind of come back, is we've been debating on our approach going forward, because
Yes.
while that format does work, it also kind of causes a bit of an issue when it comes to the shows we want to watch.
Yes.
So why don't you kind of explain where you're at with that? Because if you've listened to the very last episode, we did have another show or another anime set up and planned. And you are kind of hesitant about it.
I have a lot of anime. I've seen a lot of anime. And the show that we had lined up, because we were trying to do it, I had written down every single anime I had ever seen that I can remember, because there are some that I completely forget about, and I'll see it and I'm like, oh my God, I remember that. And we had put them in like separate piles, because you have animes like One Piece and Naruto and Inuyasha and Fairy Tail that have hundreds of episodes. And I have not even seen every single episode except for Fairy Tail. I have watched every episode of Fairy Tail. But it's just, we can't do an entire season for a podcast that has 200 episodes for the season. And then another one like Fooly Cooly, which only has a handful of episodes. So we had separated them, and then we decided we were going to do animes that only had I think it was 5 to 13 episodes or whatever. Like they were all, in a little canister, and we just randomly picked one. And the one that we picked at the end of the last season was Devil is a Part-Timer. And while I have seen the first season, I have not seen the second one. But it's also one of those animes that I enjoyed it while I watched it, but I don't really remember a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one that I wouldn't mind watching again, but I really want to do some of the animes that are precious to me.
Right.
Because I do have some of those animes. We have some of them on our shelf, like Cowboy Bebop, which we have watched. And Trigun, which is another one. Inuyasha is a huge one that is very close to my heart. But there's, like, the biggest one that I want to do is the original Full Metal Alchemist. Because that is one of those animes that still to this day, I can sit down and I can watch it and love. I mean, I can literally recite the words to certain episodes, but I love it so much that it just never gets old. Mm-hmm. And I want to watch that one, but if we watch that one, then we're going to have to watch Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Because the original Full Metal Alchemist, when it came out, the books were not finished. So when they got up to a certain point, they had to go away from where the books were. But Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood actually follows the manga. And for the longest time, I refused to watch Brotherhood because it just absolutely irritated me. All the deadly sins were different, and it just, everything moved faster, and I was just like, I don't like it. But then I had a buddy that I worked with, Jeff, who told me to look at it as an alternate universe. So once I did that, absolutely love it. It's still, the original is still the epitome of what I love and what helped me, or not just helped me, but what started my love with anime besides, a lot of the older animes. But it's one of those that I really want to do. So I got to thinking, well, there's other ones that I really want to do. And other ones I've talked to about, like Dragon Ball Z. And all of these they have a lot of episodes. And I guess the biggest question is, I want to ask our viewers, because we do have viewers, and I thank y'all so much.
I think there'll be listeners more than viewers.
Listeners, whatever. Y'all know what I mean. But thank you so much. It makes me feel super special that there are more weebs out there. Mm-hmm. But I want to know, like, one, do you like the format that we were doing where it's like one podcast per episode?
Right.
Or do you want to, one episode per podcast.
Episode for episode by ratio.
Yeah. Or would you rather like us do a few episodes and then recap them and talk about them, or an entire season and recap and talk about? Because it's just trying to figure out how to do these bigger ones and ones that are very special. And then we can get suggestions, like if the listeners want to give suggestions, any of y'all on an anime that either, maybe I've seen it, maybe I haven't, because I will say I have not watched a lot of anime here recently. And there's even like some of the movies that I want to do, but that would just be one episode. Right. So,
and I think that's part of it that I want to understand too. I mean, the breaking down each episode is kind of easier, and sometimes when the episodes are not very long, like we've tried to keep this podcast, the episodes, under an hour.
Yeah.
And I feel like that makes them easier to digest. They're more consumable that way. Mm-hmm. And breaking down an episode, especially when the episodes are like 20 minutes at most, it's a lot easier to kind of talk about it, just break down what happened and then our thoughts on it. But sometimes when you can kind of consume everything and then talk about it as a whole, mm-hmm. you can have a better conversation about it. And I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that would just like to maybe take one season of something mm-hmm. and just consume it all. And then we come and talk about it and we just say, hey, we're talking about season 1 of this.
Yeah.
Same with a movie. Like I would love on this pod talk about one of my favorite things, which is Akira. And I mean, that's one episode as its own thing. We don't do an entire season of that. So we could maybe do like a each season is, we could just do movies for one season.
Yeah.
So are we breaking down episodes? Or are we breaking down seasons? What are we doing? That's what we want to know from your perspective. Now, if we could do maybe test it out. Maybe we could try a few different things and see what everyone likes. But we need feedback. We need feedback. We know you're listening. We just need your feedback.
And that is one of the things, like when it does come to some animes, because Inuyasha has I think it's 150 episodes, but it also has like 4 movies, and which we have all of them, or I have all of them. And Dragon Ball Z has movies. Naruto has movies. Like Full Metal Alchemist has movies. Like, you have to watch, you know, with Inuyasha, the movies correspond and tie in to the actual show, where with Full Metal Alchemist, the movie picks up where the original series ended, at least the one movie. Naruto ties in with the show, so you can't just watch the movies without actually watching the show, kind of like with Marvel, where you can watch so much of a show and then, oh, there's a movie that ties it all together, and then back to a show, oh, there's another movie. That's how it plays out with a lot of the animes. But there are just like standalone movies. Like, I watched one, I think it was like a month ago, and I think it was called Bubbles. And I didn't know what to expect about it, but I absolutely fell in love with it. And it's such a beautifully done anime. And there's another one that I watched not too long ago, but I don't remember the name of it, and it was really nicely done too. But there's just a lot of older ones, like even one of the big ones that I want you to watch, which is Yu Yu Hakusho, which I think I showed you the first episode. And I remember you asking me if the kid was going to be Yusuke, if he's going to be dead through the entire show. And I was like, no. But it's got a shit ton of episodes. But also, a lot of these animes, especially like Naruto and even Fullmetal Alchemist, has filler episodes, which have jack shit to do with the actual storyline.
Right. And that can either be a good or a bad thing sometimes.
I don't care for a lot of the filler episodes in Naruto. Like, there's some of them you're just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like, why?
But sometimes they can be a lot of fun. I mean,
they're all like really fun. They're just kind of like, fuck, I wanted to know what the story was going to, and now you're giving me this shit.
Yeah, no,
But
I get that.
when I originally watched them, I was watching them as they were airing on TV. So, you know, you got like maybe one new episode a week. And then when the season was over, it was just, you started all back over. And then they played it. Next season came out. You got those next episodes, and it started all back over. So I'm one of those that did not like filler episodes when I was watching it, because you get that episode and then you'd be like, well, what the hell happened to Sasuke? And then all of a sudden it would be back and you were like, why are we back at the fucking beginning? And so on and so forth. But now Crunchyroll, if I'm not mistaken, actually tells you which the filler episodes are. So we can actually, you know, I'm pretty sure my brother was telling me about it. I haven't done a lot on Crunchyroll since Funimation switched over with them. But I know you can look up filler episodes, and it does not affect the story whatsoever if you skip them. So that's another thing. Do y'all want us to do filler episodes? Do you want us to skip over filler episodes? Because some of them are fine. Others are just kind of like, ugh.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm open to whatever. I mean, hell, we could do just a random episode of something every episode. It'd be like 1 minute we're talking about Yu Yu Hakusho, the next minute we're talking about Inuyasha, and
nope.
you just be like, what?
Nope.
We do like the anime.
There's so many storylines. Like with Dragon Ball Z, I know you've heard quite a bit about Dragon Ball Z. And with them, they have the sagas. So you have like the Cell Saga, which is everything to do with Cell. That is like one whole storyline. You can't just skip around or you're going to be utterly freaking lost. And I feel like with a lot of these, you do have a lot of cliffhangers. They do lead in one episode to the next, to the next, to the next. And I feel like with this podcast and me trying to get you to like these animes, there's going to be some of them where you watch the first few episodes and you're just kind of like, ugh. And then you get into like the more drama of it. And then you're finally realizing, you know, how deep this cartoony looking thing can be. And that's one of my biggest things. Like I've told you, I want you to watch Fooly Cooly in its entirety, which he has tried to watch it and he did not understand it.
No, I'll admit that. But hey, let's save all that. We'll try it again, because if we're gonna talk about it here, then I have to commit.
Yes, it has a very deep meaning behind it. Like, it is definitely one of those where it looks very, I guess, tongue-in-cheek type thing. Very light and funny and just chaotic craziness. But it has such a deeper meaning that is really touching in a way. At least I feel it is. And I feel like that's one of those, I can't wait until we get into it, because I want you to see it from that perspective and see if you understand where they're coming from.
Okay.
Because I did watch it with Piper, who's one of our daughters. And at first she was just kind of like, this is just, craziness. Like, every episode's just off the wall, absolute crazy shit. But when she started picking up on those little hints, and she was asking me about it, and like, it made me so proud that she was understanding what the episodes were about and what the child was going through and what the robot meant and everything else. And it made me happy to see somebody understood it and didn't just kind of throw it away as, oh, this is just some, crappy, crazy anime that doesn't have any type of meaning. It's just craziness.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I mean, I'll give it a shot.
You better.
I will. I mean, I'm open to this, and I could say that I'm partially responsible for this long gap. I can't help it. Now, for those of you who have been listening since we made our switch to Anchor, I mean, it could have been new to you. Mm-hmm. Because, like I said, the episodes we recorded last, I'm almost positive were 2018. And then we did kind of our whole platform did kind of a shift.
Yeah. Where
Podbean was our host, and I was paying for it. And then I realized, there's free platforms out there, and I don't need to be paying for this. And I'm not getting anything out of it. So why don't I go over to Anchor and see how that works? And Podbean showed their true ass, because they shut me out. Like, shut the door, threw away the key, and like blocked me from their phone, because it was like, God damn, like, we broke up bad. Because as soon as I was done with them, they were done with me, so I'll never go back to them. But ever since all of our other shows have been on Anchor, I mean, I've been surprised. Like, we've found a new audience. This show found an audience, which I was really surprised by.
And I'm so happy about. I love you, all my little weebs.
Mm-hmm. And, thank you for the ad revenue. It's pennies every day, but I mean, hey, it adds up. So I appreciate it. So if we can try to get this show back into a proper form, that's what we're trying to do. If there's anyone out there who would, if you could just, I don't know what platform you listen on, but we do, Spotify does polls and questions, and I like to pose questions to people, and I guess I'll pose in a poll, so you can just click yes, no, or whatever. What your preferred platform? Do you want us to break down episodes? Do you want us to break down seasons? What do you want to do? Because I feel like we can get more mileage out of episodes.
Yeah.
But will we have enough to talk about? Because I know when we did Death Parade, some episodes were much deeper and we had long conversations. Mm-hmm. They weren't, again, we tried to keep everything kind of condensed and consumable. But I know we had one that wasn't even 20 minutes long because nothing happened. And there was really nothing really to talk about. And I wouldn't even consider that a filler episode, but it was just, there was nothing to really dig into.
Yeah.
So it was a really hard episode to even have anything to say about. So if you just want to hear us bullshit and then talk about the episode, we can do that too. I mean, I feel like the shorter episodes make it easier for everybody, and I don't want to take up a lot of time, but
I mean, I feel like our longer episodes will be when we do movies.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you have at least an hour-long anime movie, so that's a lot of stuff to digest and discuss.
Mm-hmm. So, again, the question goes out to you, the listeners. If we
Yes.
don't get any responses, then we'll just decide ourselves. But we would like audience participation if possible. So, like I said, I'll put out a poll on Spotify. So you just find the show on Spotify, find this episode, and then scroll down to the bottom, and then answer the question. Now, I'm assuming you do this in app because I've never seen it on the actual platform, like on my computer. So check the app. I feel like that's where you find this stuff. I know people ask these questions all the time, like where's all this stuff at? Check the app for sure, because I know you can rate the pod on Spotify. 5 stars, if you would, please. Apple Podcasts, you can also do that. 5 stars, please. You don't have to say anything. You can just hit the 5-star thing. We'd appreciate it. And then, as things grow, maybe we'll get a Twitter going. Maybe we'll get a Facebook page going if that's something people want to do.
Yeah.
We'll look at all the other social media things to kind of keep you engaged if that's your thing. And if not, if you just want to come here and listen to us talk about anime, that's what we're trying to do. I'm trying to get this going again because I feel like it's got a lot of... It's got potential, and I would love to see the show continue. I've got a lot of other things I'd love to continue, but I'm only one man, people.
I want to get it going because it makes me, like I said, happy to know that there are other people out there like me. Like, I do have friends that like anime. My sister and my nephew are huge anime fans, but I don't meet a lot of people who aren't related to me that are huge anime fans, or, people that I didn't grow up with who are huge anime fans. And I don't know, it makes me feel special. I love all of you.
See, if we can get her sister a microphone and an internet connection, and then all that, then they can talk about anime, and I can just, not that I got a problem with this, I just mean, so when I don't have the time.
Oh.
Because... See, she's not saying it, but my other co-hosts on my other podcast like to point out, as I do, I'm a busy man. This is the third other podcast that I produce. I still have another one that I'd love to go back to, and it's more personal to me, but I can't expect anyone to do anything for that since it's just me talking into a microphone, so I just need time to write. I've got editing jobs. I've got an animated series I'm trying to finish. I've got so much going on, so I don't have the time. And, if she could be talking to anime with someone else on a regular basis, then I could take the episodes and I could post them, and y'all could do it on your own time. You ain't got to wait for me.
The whole reason we started this show was because it was supposed to be me showing your ass anime.
But I feel like everybody else who's listening would just love to hear people gushing about anime. They don't give a damn about my opinion.
Let us know if you want it to be about him watching anime and getting introduced to anime, or if you just want to hear people talk about anime. Because if you just want to hear people talk about anime, I can do that shit all day long.
Yeah. And again, I don't mind being here. I don't mind being a part of it. I feel like we'd have so many more episodes recorded because this one over here seems to have a little extra time that I don't. And
not anymore.
Well, not now, but I just mean that you could etch out that time when I don't, and then you could be talking to your sister or whomever about anime. And then I could you say, here, we recorded this, and then I can fix it and put it up for you. No problem.
Me and Kimberly already have our big game plan, and that's to do like live TikToks of our Uno games.
See, there you go. And that could all be part of this. It's a whole thing. It's branding. So, yeah, we're keeping this one pretty short and sweet. We just wanted to kind of come back and do introductions. If we don't hear from anybody, as far as any of the polls, if we don't see any comments or what have you, then, we'll proceed however we're going to proceed. It won't be Devil as a part-timer, I can tell you that.
Nope. So, we'll do what Trina wants to do, and it's going to be a really tough decision because there's so many really good ones.
Yeah.
And that's, again, not saying Devil as a part-timer isn't good. It's just not one that's close to my heart.
She's not as passionate about it as she is other things. Yes. I mean, if you had a passion and someone was like, hey, why don't we talk about this thing over here? And you was like, I kind of want to talk about this other thing. You would do the same thing too. So, if we had kept this format going, normally we probably would have already talked about it. But I screwed things up because I'm busy. I need a clone.
Yeah, no, you don't. It never ends good with clones.
Well, I mean, one clone could be going to work, and the other person could be doing the other thing. Other person could be recording podcast. I mean, I could have each clone's doing one of the things that I'm doing. Shit, I'd be getting so much done.
You trying to be like Mr. Manhattan or whatever?
No, I mean, I'd say I feel like Doug Kenny from Multiplicity. That's why I need my clones, of course, to not have that one that's going around saying, "I Peter." So. Anyway, all you weeaboos out there, thank you for listening. Thank you for letting us know that there is still interest in the show. I was really surprised to see all the listens that we got on Anchor, so I appreciate that. That's why we're back. That's why we're trying to reinvigorate this thing and maybe get more of you listening. I apologize for the gap. I know you've probably been going, well, shit, it's been months. And then all of a sudden there's a new, hopefully you haven't unfollowed at this point. That would be heartbreaking if you had. So anyway, come back and hopefully very soon we'll have more content for you. But until then, we don't really have a catchphrase, but we'll get one. Keep animating.
Yeah, no, that's awful.
Kudasai! Or whatever. I don't know. Is there a fancy catchphrase that somebody says at the end of a show?
I mean, there's a shit ton of catchphrases.
Okay. What, like?
I don't know, like Naruto's "Believe it."
There you go. Until then, believe it.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.